So my name is Matt Wynott, and I'm the executive director at Sherbrooke Lake Camp, one of our United Church camps that is in Nova Scotia. And I want to welcome everyone here. I want to say, as I kind of half jokingly, that you are here in a time of chaos, in a time of grief, in a time of unknown, in a time of, I would also say, innovation. And one of the things that I think we as camp people do really well, we innovate. When we have a rainy day at camp, we do camp and we do it better. We get rainy, we get wet, we get dirty, we get muddy, and we just do it because we do it for our kids, because that is what we are called to do. So, welcome everyone. I also want to say that in many of our circles, we are trying to practice and remember our relationships with our Indigenous neighbors. So I'm going to take a moment now to pause and just give thoughts to the fact that if we are on Turtle Island in North America, which we are on lands that have been loved and cared for long before European settlers arrived. The relationships that they had with this land, had and have with this land, was one of family and of kin. Recognize the long of painful history of the ways the Christian church and colonial settlement practices caused harm to these lands and its people. In many cases, we still do. It is my prayer that we will all seek new and creative ways to live with respect on the land and with peace and friendship with its people. Amen.
Amen.
I also want to say that I've had this candle with me here all night. It is a very hard time right now in Nova Scotia and across our country. It is hitting home very hard. And I very much appreciate every single one of you that are here. I just got off a call with all of our staff at Sherbrooke Lake Camp, just checking in with them. And for the first time in at least the 48 hours, my mind was clear. And I really hope that this meeting brings some sense of clarity to you. So thank you for being here. What I want to do now is I'm going to orient you. I mean, if you haven't been on Zoom in the last 5 weeks, you're obviously not talking to people. But I would say, just to remind you that we have a couple of functions on your screen. If you're on your phone, obviously you can tap your screen and slide, which will gives you more of an option to see more people. If you're on your computer, you'll see that you have a chat function on the bottom, and a chat function on the bottom, as well as seeing your participants on the side. So what I'm going to get you to do now is pull up the chat function, and if you can, just type. It's hard to see. We can see your faces, and we kind of see your names and what camp you're from. But if on the side in the chat, you can also just type in your name and your camp, it'd be great to see the full name, full camps, and you know what, the province as well. Sorry, Sherry, you hit enter too quick. Kasota East from Alberta. There you go. So if everybody can do that, it would be fantastic. We're going to ask you to make sure that you're also on mute for most of the meeting, and if you want to talk, you can talk at any point. All right, so we got Sherry from Alberta, Dan, Dalen, Jordan, Alex, Nancy, Isabel, Jeremy, Carolyn, Carol. Look at all these people. Got regional staff people. Awesome. Literally from one end of the country to the other. So it's great to see you all here. It's great. Okay, I just want to set a little bit of expectation. So those of you who've been on this call, we've been doing this for about a year, maybe 14, 15 months now. And so we have had anywhere from 6 people to upwards of 22, 23. So as I said, this will be our largest. However, I just want to set a little bit of expectations for this meeting, just so everybody kind of is clear about what the meeting is and what it is not. And so I want to just kind of say out loud that I think this is a time for us to inspire one another, a time to give ideas, a time to reaffirm and lift up what you're doing, and discuss any of those fears that you may have. And then each of us can support one another in those, in the good and the sort of fears that you may have. What this is not about is getting into the weeds of different programs that may exist, getting into the questions of whether or not there's support from the church and why that isn't happening. We can have those discussions outside of this, because I think that we're all in a point where there's a lot of fear and a lot of unknown, and so I just want to name that. It also differs by region, right? So some regions have support programs, others do not. And so what I encourage you to do after this is get in touch with maybe your sister camps, your neighboring camps. If you're only camp in one region, reach out to others. Also reach out to the regional person who would be responsible for camps in your area. Also going to encourage you to check out to make sure that you check in all levels of government for different support. I know many of us are involved at different levels of the United Church as well. And so people are, you get varying messages, whether you're eligible for the subsidy or whether or not you're eligible for the emergency business account. I will tell you that you are an incorporated, you're a corporated body, you are not a church. Okay, you are part of the United Church, but you are a incorporated body. Therefore, you are eligible, from what we understand, you are eligible for the subsidy and the emergency business account. So go to the canada.ca for more information on that. Of course, after this meeting, if there's a couple people who have questions about those types of things, we can certainly talk about that after for 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to use, now that we've used the chat for who you are and what camp you're at, the chat is going to be used for a bike rack. Now, what I mean by bike rack is if we're talking about one thing and you kind of pipe in on something else that may not necessarily fit this topic, we're just going to ask you to write it in the bike rack, and we'll come back to it if we have time at the end of the conversation. And then, of course, I just want to remind folks that we're going to have hopefully we'll have respectful conversations, and remember the type of community that we are, that is all inclusive and all loving all the time. I also recognize that, and I'm just going to lay it out there. Those of you who know me, I like to shoot it straight. This time of times literally just sucks. I'm going to start with that. That's how I feel about all of this going on, and planning is really hard. When you're camp people trying to plan, it is really hard. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is in the chat, if you can say what you as a camp, in less than 50 words, what you as a camp are doing about this summer. Some may have made the choice that the camp isn't going. Some may have are going to make a decision later in life, or later down the road. And so I'm just wondering if you're going to see what happens there. So I'll read them out as they come along here. And while people are writing, what I'm going to get you to do is if you think you guys are doing, your camp is doing something that's really innovative, in about 1 minute, I'm going to get you to pipe in on your camera and talk a little bit about what you think you're doing that is innovative. And this is where some of the ideas will start pumping, hopefully. So hang tight on that. Okay. All right, seeking more information for decision pending early May, planning a virtual camp, planning for summer, deciding mid to late May, still undecided, number of opinions. Let me guess, probably at the board level. Camp decision has not yet been made. Has set a date for June the 3rd to call it. June 1st is a no-go date. Talking to other United Church camps, looking for funding, planning a virtual camp. Board decision, April 28th. 3 youth hired to explore options of a virtual camp, May 13th. Rainbow camp is happening online, great to know. Haven't decided yet, next decision date is May 12th. Pushing any camp repayments out to the end of May. Virtual camp everywhere. Planning for summer season and waiting for decision May. So it sounds like a lot of folks are waiting sort of mid-May to end of May to 1st of June type of thing. Yeah, so some people are making the decision now. Okay, those of you who have written down the idea of a virtual camp, does anybody want to talk a little bit about just the sort of the high level discussion that you've had as a board, and also recognizing that maybe this is a conversation that could happen again about with another group of people. So does anybody want to just talk a little bit about what they're doing for virtual camp?
Sure. Doug, Camp Big Canoe, Ontario. We're running, we started it 2 weeks ago, started running a virtual camp 3 times a day, basically like a morning watch, Vespers, and a couple of craft things during the day, and it's gone very well. Actually, our most well-attended ones are the alumni trivia nights that Steve runs. For those who know Steve, he can talk for 2 hours easy. And so those things have had 70 or 80 people at them. So it's gone really well, and we have a board meeting Wednesday night where we're going to decide if we're going to formalize it and start paying staff. Right now it's our summer staff who volunteer for it and are filling in. So we're going to talk about formalizing it on Wednesday.
Doug, somebody has a question, and if anybody has any questions, maybe particular about this particular topic for a person. So Doug, is that on Zoom?
It's on Zoom. We've done a lot of research on the security and have actually had to kick a couple of people off, that kind of thing. But Zoom is getting better. We haven't had very many problems. I'd say there's in 2 weeks been 40 sessions, and maybe 2 times there was someone we didn't know on there that Steve wasn't comfortable with. We aren't charging for it right now. We're looking at setting it up for the summer in a more formal way and charging for that. That's what Steve's coming with the proposal. Steve's our director, executive director, coming with the proposal on Wednesday night to the board on how we can run it during the summer and pay some staff if we're not having camp in the summer, which it kind of looks like we're not. So.
Great. Any other questions in particular for Doug, or anybody else want to pick up on what Doug said about what your camp is doing for virtual camp and what planning process has already happened about that?
Could I speak on it a bit?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. We had a.
Sorry, Jim. What camp are you from, and where are you located?
We're Camp Whitney, and we're located in northeastern Alberta.
Great, thanks.
North of Lloydminster. We had a Zoom meeting, board meeting on Friday, or on Saturday, and we still don't feel that we have enough information to make the go no go call as far as a full up camp. In the meantime, though, we are looking at maybe making a decision at our next meeting for the 8th of May. We are looking at communicating with all our campers from last year, sending out emails to them, telling them that we still haven't forgotten about them, and that we want to engage them one way or the other as the summer goes by. We are looking at a virtual camp. We have a curriculum which was written for us about five or 6 years ago by a minister from an Alberta church here, and he is going, and it's a really nice little package, and we're looking at doing maybe 2 1-hour sessions per day for 2 weeks, and it may be the same program from 1 week to the other. Different activities, different scriptures, and even different speakers to it. And so we've got a meeting on Monday, and we're going to talk about that with Trish, my director, as well as our program director and our recreation assistant director as well. And we're looking at sort of coming up with some bare bones pattern for it that we could start to run with. So that's where we're kind of at. We do feel kind of cut off from the main church right now. Some of that has to do with the residual after effects, the collateral damage, so to speak, when we went to a different court system. But also it's with regional only meeting once a year, and now probably not meeting again for a little while yet. We definitely feel as if we're kind of cut off and sort of left to our own devices. So we're feeling a little bit lonely out there, not feeling the love, I would say would be a good way to put it. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Anybody else want to chime in about virtual camp and any things that any revelations for folks?
From my perspective, we had a short meeting with some of our last year's director of recreation director and stuff, and there were some really good ideas coming out, like maybe taking a trip out to the camp and doing some virtual, we'd have to do some videos out there or something like that to make it, seem like we're out at camp. And there were some good ideas tossed around, but like Jim has just said, we're just at the beginning of the process, and that was one of the things that had popped up in our very short meeting the other day. And that's about it, really.
Okay. Anything else on virtual camp or something that is innovative that you're taking, that you know that you may or may not, you may know that camp may not be happening where you are, but what are you doing to help support your campers, if anything?
We've been talking about virtual camp, and we plan to offer
Jill, who are you and what camp are you?
Jill from Camp Chemo Key in Ontario.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay.
So we've been talking about virtual camp. We do plan on hiring a couple staff at least to help run it. But I guess we're struggling with the idea of how virtual should it be? In that if we do have a lot of people that are at home with 2 parents possibly working at home, and then 2 or 3 campers, and maybe only 1 computer that the parents need to work, how much time do we want to encourage the campers to be in front of the screen? So trying to find something where we can introduce something on the screen and then have them go do something on their own. And so we're trying to find something more in that area rather than just keeping the whole program online. It's sort of a go and do this and come back sort of thing. But how that is going to take place, we haven't figured it out. But we just want to make sure that even our camp, we do the First Nations program. We have where we reach out to the reserves close to us. And a lot of those kids don't have computer or internet access. And so how do we reach those campers? So trying to find, the camp in a box idea, but with a twist somehow is what we're trying to work on for the summer.
Thanks for sharing, Jill. Anyone else? Anything else that you're being innovative? Not necessarily virtual camp, but anything, any way that you're connecting with your campers that is other than what's already been mentioned. Harry, I see you're unmuting yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Stephanie on the spot because it's so unlike her not to say anything.
Go for it. I like it.
Wait, what do you want me to say here? Wait, just what we've been doing to connect with our campers. So we've been brainstorming and thinking about, because we don't want to announce, like, we thought about saying, oh, Rainbow Camp's happening this summer, but in this different capacity, because we don't want to give them like that false, like, oh, it's going to be even comparable, because it's not, and it can't be. So we're just going to try to be really awesome at something else, which we're calling Rainbow Online Connection, and we're calling it ROC for short. So ROC programming is going to be like the box idea, where they get this box of like a t-shirt and other camp swag stuff, and then access to different sessions during that week online. And so that'll be like Coming Out 101, which is just kind of like an educational session anyway that we would do at camp. So that kind of is like just them participating in discussion based, but then other stuff like craft, and we're brainstorming that kind of stuff. But right now we're just kind of thinking about connecting. We're brainstorming how we can connect with our youth and getting them together, because queer youth, that's especially important right now because they're already isolated. And then social isolation on top of that is hard for them. So we're concerned about mental health resources and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Thank you.
Hey, Matt, it's Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Joe Richards, Pierce Williams Christian Center, Fingal, Ontario. Sorry to join late. I was just on a board meeting call. One of the things that we're starting next week is something we're calling PW Love, and it is the idea that we've recruited our staff and alumni who've been camp staff to register, and we then have put your name on a form out to camp, so campers can fill in a form requesting a personal call from a single staff member. More as a 15 or 20-minute check-in at some point, so a call or a video call. Just the idea that it's a difficult time, and just doing a check-in and give them that opportunity to connect to Pierce again, because as much live programming as my camp staff are doing, it's all about connecting, right? It's all about them still thinking about Pierce Williams, and we struggle with the same thing that Jill said, right? Like, is virtual camp computer camp? Because there's a reason we don't have computers on site. But it's also difficult to make virtual camp outdoor and active camp, because you're trusting on parents to be the supervisors, right? So it's this, if they're going to be online on a screen anyway, then why wouldn't we be that screen? But how do we know? We just don't know, right? So, but the PW Love program is something we're starting immediately. So it'll start next week with staff. So if I get requested, I'll call a kid, I'll arrange a time, and I'll call one of the families and talk with them just for 15, 20 minutes about life, camp, questions they have, and really just putting ourselves out there as camp staff, because a lot of our staff are just sitting at home, waiting to be asked to do things. And we have that's it. I've talked enough.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else want to dovetail off of what was just being? I love you, Morgan. Bye. Anybody else want to? If there's a Morgan on here, I love you too, but that was my daughter. Is there anybody else who wants to say anything here about virtual camp or being innovative about programming for summer camp? I will note that I think I'm pronouncing it right, but Dalen from Mackenzie Camp talking about offering 2 streams, an online virtual and a community-based program, perhaps in a church parking lot with campfire circles, sing songs, drop off. We're exploring, those different streams. I think that this kind of dovetails into something that I want to kind of mention, is that idea that using your space for more than just what you typically do for summer camp. So if you're in a province where the virus is less prohibitive, I guess, or less infectious. I think, depending on those opportunities, certainly using your space to help. Somebody was saying the other day on a call that I was on, this idea of having camp as a retreat space for healthcare workers, or because they're going to need to get away once we're down on the other end of it, maybe in September, need a time to be away. Minister type people who are going to be doing a lot of funerals and a lot of time. So a reflective time for those types of folks. So you always, yes, you have your campers, your children, but we also have a broader community that is also in need for you.
I just wanted to say, one of the things, I'm reaching out to the churches that kind of traditionally built our camp.
Yeah.
And just seeking, because we are their mission, or they are our mission, and seeing if there are ways that we might do some programming. What did we used to call it? Bible camp, or yeah. Anyway, just seeing what we can do across our rural churches in Central Alberta to see about supporting the youth.
Yeah, absolutely. Marissa from FERCM mentioned that has considered running family programs with one family per bathroom per cabin, perhaps linked to the idea of a retreat for those who need respite. Yeah, so we're certainly doing the same thing. So we get to a point in August where we're on the other end, and you can have families come in. Our only national park in Nova Scotia is actually closed for the year. So is there an opportunity to have those folks who would typically, maybe we switch into becoming a family campground versus a summer camp. So, hiring staff may not necessarily be possible, but can we use our space and bring in some revenue to help offset some costs, for sure. Anybody else doing anything interesting with their site or one of the scenarios that you've been doing in your scenario planning? No one? Okay.
Hey, Matt, I was on the phone. Michael Schuberg's not on the call, is he?
I don't think so.
I was on the phone with him earlier today. So their site is being used as a migrant worker isolation site. So set aside camp. He doesn't run camp, but in that capacity. But the idea that migrant workers need to be isolated for 14 days before they can go work on the farms, 14 days no work. And so they've set that up. I'm going to visit there on Wednesday to see how it's laid out and the potential for doing the same thing. Because the conversation I just had with my board is that if camp happens, are we all ready for less income than we've ever had before? Because parents are not going to bounce back from this. So even if they were to say camp can happen, if they say camp can happen with limited kids, well, that just, in a lot of cases, that won't make financial sense. But if camp, we're getting to the point where we need to make a choice, because if you're looking at something like a migrant worker site, just do that for the summer instead. And I don't think anybody's going to fault you at this point in this experience.
And then also the question of, whether or not you can have camp happen is one question. The other question is whether it should happen or not is another one. So I think I would certainly encourage folks that if you're down that road and they're like, oh yeah, we can do it, then ask yourselves the question, should you? And I don't mean the sort of, yes, we should do it because we've always done it. We've done it for 55 years. And yes, we have an obligation, but the question of health, and at that moment where one person is infected and then comes into and then gets spread elsewhere. So those are two questions that I think, if you haven't thought about that should question is certainly is a really important one. My advice, anyways. Okay, I did see on the chat, which I really much appreciate. somebody mentioned a thing about, so what are people doing around, so Robin asked from Pacific Mountain region, wondering about opportunities to do building and maintenance while the camps are empty this summer, if it comes to that. Ideas for raising extra capital funds. Robin mentions not the best time to ask for extra money, but I would like to pursue it. I do want to make a comment around that idea of not a great time to ask for money. There's no question. I think one of the things is that it's never a good time to ask for money. There's no question that our economy is in a bad spot, but it doesn't hurt to ask. That would be the only comment that I'd say on that. So what are people doing around building or maintenance? Are you planning on doing that, and what sort of ask would you recommend for fundraising?
One of the things I would say is that if you wait for the right time, you're never going to ask. I think that saying that it's not the right time to ask, or we're not the people in need, is incorrect. We are the people in need, and we need to be here when this is said and done for kids. I just put a link in the chat, 5 harmful coronavirus fundraising myths. And it's a video from Bloomerang, which is the fundraising software we use here at Pierce Williams. It's not inexpensive, but it is what it is. And so, right, even the front screen of that 5 myths, the 3 things are: people don't have money to give, that's a myth. It's a bad taste to ask now, also a myth. And your organization isn't important, also a myth. Those are just 3. I don't even know what the other 2 are. But I would say it's awesome time, Rob. I think it's an awesome time to do maintenance if you can afford to do maintenance. The policy, Pierce Williams is in a tough spot financially right now, and our policy is currently do what you can with what you have. So we have 0 money to spend, but we have supplies that have accumulated over the years, as they do at many camps, right? Like there's things, and so right now our gracious super volunteer Bill Stevens and my maintenance guy Flash are just doing what they can with what they have, spending no money, but getting all those small projects done that you sort of wish you had time to do, and now you have all the time in the world to do. You know, and practicing still physical distancing and less than 5 people on site, right? We're not meeting in groups of 5, and we're not open, right? Like we're not running a business. We're just, up till now, I haven't paid my maintenance guy. So he's a volunteer as well. But it's this idea that do what you can with what you have. I think it's a great time to do maintenance if you can find money for it.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Vicky. Yep.
So this is Vicky from Saskatchewan, Munson Beach Camp. I was just going to say around the asking for money thing. I think that it's a good time to ask individuals for money. I think that it's also a good time to reach out to churches that have traditionally supported you and see what you as a camp can do for them. I think churches are going to be are probably being hit really, really hard with this and not being able to meet in person. And so that's something I've been cognizant of. And then our camp runs our biggest fundraising piece is monthly donors through the PAR system in the United Church and also through Canada Helps. And so I've put out sort of very targeted asks to several families and individuals who aren't on that program yet, but really should be. And I think there's a delicate way to ask. It wasn't so hard. And I mean, I can probably share the language I use. And I said in it, because I don't know what all these people are doing. And I said, if you've been laid off or if this financially has affected you, we're so sorry. And, this isn't for you then, but it's not, I don't think people will be surprised to ask. In my neck of the woods anyways, it seems like a lot of organizations are in need right now. So I've been receiving a ton of asks. And I think it's important for camps to do because, 2020 is going to be hard, but there's talk of, 2021 being hard too. And for many of us, that would mean the end. So I think it's important to be proactive and start asking for your supporters for support right now.
I would also add the idea around churches being, and I was kind of in that boat where I was like, you don't want to ask. And I got a $3,000 check I asked, and they were like, "Yep, we're still doing our commitment to camp. That's great." And then another $1,500 check from those churches that are committed to the ministry that we do. And so I think the thing out of this would be, remember, don't be afraid to ask. Dave had mentioned in the chat from Camp Shagerbeck in Saskatchewan, if we can't, thank you, Dave. I love the finger wave. It's great. If we can't run this summer, we're looking at options of full or partial refunds with a tax receipt for parents. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for some camps, having your campers already registered prior to this was a great benefit, and trying to make sure you don't have to stop, as I say, stop the bleeding, so to speak, but stop the refunds, and asking people to stick with you, and why the ministry is important is also key. So if you're in that boat, don't assume that everybody wants a refund automatically.
And also be very cautious about giving refunds as credit, or keeping the money and giving it as a credit towards 2021, because you're going to be out that money 2 times, right? So using our personal example, we've already spent the deposits we've received getting ready for camp. That's part of our expenses. And so if we were to say that it's just all credited towards next year, we're going to have to expense that again. And I need to fundraise. I'll need to fundraise that money. I need to fundraise all money right now. But yeah.
Matt, if I could break in just for a moment, it's Ken Clark here, and I'm filling in for Ron Ewart, but my position is Director of Property Services and Capital Loans at Toronto United Church Council. And many of you know me, we have under our jurisdiction ownership 5 camps in Ontario through Shining Waters Regional Council. I just want to share with you in terms of donation, going back to what Vicki said, it's never a bad time to ask for donations, even in this critical, unprecedented time. I'll share with you that one of our camps, that's Camp Scugog in Port Perry, they raised in 2 weeks $27,000. That was raised for supporting the food banks and for supporting their campers and staff that are in the inner city part of Toronto, because they were finding out that some of their people just didn't have food on the table. I mean, it really hit hard and it really hit home, but that was just one of their outreach opportunities that they were able to do. So, and through our organization, we have the Camping Opportunities Fund that has a budget of about $120,000 that is distributed proportionally to the camps, but as they need it. But as we're looking at opportunities now to assist camps, to even assist congregations within our portfolios of both borrowers and investors, it's never a bad time to ask for donations, because if you've been involved in camping, and certainly the alumni will support this, and as somebody mentioned, and Vicki, you talked about next year, 2021, if a camp doesn't go this year, you still need to make it work for next year, and you've got to plan for that too. So I don't think there's any hardship in asking for donations.
We're just going to take what you just said and like videotape and put it all over YouTube. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Doug.
Just to, a couple of things to start. Thoughts and prayers going out to you guys on the East Coast and to everybody. That was crazy and gut-wrenching. And on the opposite side of that, it's great to see a lot of familiar faces here, because some days you feel pretty alone doing all this stuff.
Amen,
but what I wanted to add in on the camp maintenance is we're talking about doing that too, and we had a couple of projects going. In our area of Ontario, you can't get a permit, a building permit, to do anything right now, so you can only finish things. So they're not letting anybody have a building permit. So you should check in your local area for what they're doing with that and what's on and what's off. I mean, obviously we have a lot of things that are in progress and can be done. There's a lot of work to be done around the camp, but for one of our major projects, we couldn't get a building permit. So.
Great point.
Yeah.
Jill?
We're in the position where we have the money and we've fundraised a capital campaign, but we've had to stop work because of permits, or with the change in what's essential services that came out a couple weeks ago. Our contractor is like, you guys aren't essential construction. So they're lobbying to try and get permission to be able to do small jobs on our site with social distancing and only 1 or 2 people there. But until they can get that permission, they're like, we're going to do, your windows and doors and new bathrooms aren't essential right now. So that's frustrating for us because we have the money, and this would be, if we close, it's a perfect opportunity to get a year ahead on all this work. But unless we can get the contractors and the permits and things, we won't be able to do it.
Great points all around. I'm just cognizant of time. It's about 12 minutes after 9, and I'm seeing a bunch of questions coming in. So I'm going to move on to the next question, which was from Carolyn. Are we allowed to have people move to the site for maintenance purposes if camp can't run? Would that be, quote, essential? The only thing I'd say about that is it would depend on your province and the place in which you are located, and your municipal guidelines and public health people. So I would always say just check with that, Carolyn, to make sure that you have those resources and they get the right answers. Rhea, I assume that's from McDougall. Does anyone have any ideas, i.e. how we could handle chaplaincy matters as per a camper who needs or wants to talk? Great question. Anybody want
to put it up as you could put it up as a forum on your website if there's a camper who needs and wants to talk, and you have access to someone who you can guide them towards, if it's not yourself.
Could I add something in there?
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
I know that it's just early days, but the campus chaplains, so ecumenically, are talking about creating a chaplains in Zoom conversation for young people. And that might be something we could invite chaplains from camps to also take part in. I'll keep you aware by email once that's coordinated. It's early days right now, but I think they want to get it happening quickly, so that might be an option.
That's great. Sherry's asking, do you have avenues to influence Canada Summer Jobs as determined of essential? So I saw you write that earlier, Sherry, so I was kind of Googling a bit. I didn't see, the government did announce but they didn't announce any sort of policy unless I missed it, and I don't want to necessarily go down this road unless somebody can correct me, but I didn't see the government announce that they're going to do like a bait and switch to they're only going to fund essential services, unless I'm wrong.
I don't know. It's something I glanced at today that went by my face, and I meant to go back and read it, but it looked like something that was headed that way. And I know they've talked about changing the Canada Summer Jobs to helping get kids hired on farms and shifting it from 50% salary to 100% salary. So I don't know how much of that's rumor, and I don't have sources, but I've been seeing things and trying to follow that along and not following up like I should.
Yeah, my thing would be to say that Canada Summer Jobs is always, for nonprofits, it's always given 100% of the salary. The only change that they've made is the deadline. So they said to go to February 2021, a part-time over that period. And then, of course, that businesses now will get 100% subsidy. From what I saw, that was the only change. So I think we're all waiting. I would say there might be a collective nod in this that we're all kind of waiting and seeing when those Canada Summer Jobs things come out and are announced. And I know here in Nova Scotia, again, I have noticed that in Nova Scotia in particular, the provincial program they gave out anyways, and said they'd be totally flexible. So it depends on how they go with that. Okay, I want to. Harry says he was unofficially told. I'll let you. Yeah, we're not going to start rumors. I think we just got to wait and see. Wait and see how that all comes down. And just a reminder, some folks mentioned Kids Help Phone is a really helpful resource for kids and families who need help. And also, Kathy mentioned, which I thought was great, the idea that our ministers are a great resource. Ministers are a great resource for sure. Sorry, people are writing some things. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I just did find the thing that I'd seen today, and it was an update just today about the Canada Summer Jobs Program, so I've just copied and pasted it in here.
That's from the government of Alberta?
That's from the federal government.
No, it's pertaining to the government of Alberta in the top of it. But
yeah,
I would say that we don't have any clear answers on Canada Summer Jobs. And the reality is, if they're only going to go to essential workers, you're putting more kids at risk, right?
Yeah.
Like, is this so? Until I hear differently, I'll just sit tight.
Sit and hope.
Well, I guess that's why I wonder if we have an avenue to speak with our MPs to declare that summer camp programming, whether it's on site or virtual, is essential service to young children, and that we should be still considered. So this is also saying that to apply, interested businesses need to email their MP office by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, April 22nd. So it's a pretty quick turnaround potentially.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so just the last 10 minutes or so, I just want to thank you for all that. That was really great discussion and really well, folks putting it in the chat and everything else. So that was really great. I want to move on now to an opportunity that I think, now Harry had mentioned, can we talk about a portal? So this kind of brings in sort of the next topic here, and Joe, you and I can kind of maybe lead this. He can certainly help me out. So many of you who have been on these calls in the past know that we in the United Church of Canada have been an ecumenical partner with many different camping denominations across North America. Most recently, part of the planning team and the execution of the Great Gathering that took place in North Carolina, which was in November, which seems so far away. But there is a full-on sprint at this point. PCCCA, the Presbyterian Camp and Conference Association, has are developing a web portal. The web portal is an opportunity for camps, denominations, or non-denominational camps to get in on a resource that can be available for camps who would like to be a part of this. They are in the very beginning stages of this. This is going to be happening over the next couple of weeks, the development of this. But I can tell you that all of the denominations that were part of the main 5 or 6 that were part of the Great Gathering are on, or as far as supporting this idea. There's no upfront cost to this per se, I guess. The Presbyterian Church is investing in creating this. This is a really great opportunity for us as camps, and when we get more information, we will let you know. However, that being said, PCCCA has created they're calling it the Campfire Collective, which is kind of like a way to be a part of the greater organization of the Campfire Collective, being part of PCCCA. Which gives us as camps a whole slew of options. One of which, through the portal, is 6 years of inside-out Christian camp curriculum. 6 years of curriculum that you will be able to be a part of which the United Church of Canada now is a writing partner for 2022. And so there'll be camp activities, a library of activities of all those denominations we're putting in resources for camps. What will happen is this, if you think of it this way, if you want in and you want to be a part of the portal, or if you want to get the portal, basically it allows you as a camp to have a portal website that's, say, for SherbrookeLakeCamp.org or SherbrookeLakeCamp.virtual-camp.org, whatever the website's going to be. We'll have our own domain. And you'll be able to give parents a online login that will allow you to communicate with your parents live. So if you are doing a virtual camp and you want to see they'll have a schedule up, 5 days of camp, click here for 2 o'clock on Sunday, 7 o'clock Sunday, 8:30 on the morning on Monday, and so on and so forth. Each parent, each camper will be provided a login, and you will be able to drag and drop as much information or as little information as possible. PCCCA is offering us as United Church and Outdoor Ministries Institute of the United Church of Canada, if you as an individual camp want to become a member of the Campfire Collective, you can be a member of the Campfire Collective for free for 3 years. They are offering this up to us as well as the disciples, the disciples of Christ. What this allows you to do is for free for 3 years. This gives you all the discounts that they have across North America with partner companies. So whether that's, Camp Brain, mattress companies, other, service providers through the camping world. And to be a part of it, you'll get it for free. And then, for instance, for this portal, it would only cost you as a camp $250 Canadian to be a part of it, and it would give you all the access for until the end of the summer to have that library. Joe, I don't know if you want to add anything. I know I'm not necessarily one with words today and yesterday, or really any time, but worse off today. Do you want to add anything to that, Joe? That'd be great.
I am word with one. Yes, so the Campfire Collective, the idea, as Matt said, is instead of us all trying to create what is the portal, we're essentially walking into it and branding it with our stuff. In that, there'll be a library of resources that you can also choose, sessions, recorded sessions and whatnot, that we will also be tasked with helping out to fill up, as all denominations will, because part of this is that it's not just I was on a meeting on Friday with the Outdoor Ministries Connection Council, and this portal idea is much bigger than just PCCCA, and it is now all of the members of the Outdoor Ministries Connection Council. So the Episcopalians, the United Methodists, the Presbyterians, the United Church of Christ, the idea resonates. We understand as a group that we're not going to make the same money from being online, but you need to keep your presence there so that you're here into 2021 and beyond. And this is a viable option for a cost that is within range. And so I think the portal, as we move forward, makes a lot of sense. And I think that it's a benefit to everyone. And the membership to the Campfire Collective, as a reference, and I want to say this, Pierce Williams is a paying member of the Campfire Collective at this moment in time. And we get the exact same benefits you would get for free. The last time the United Church of Christ was kind enough 4 or 5 years ago to offer all of us free membership for 2 years, and 3 camps across Canada took them up on it to join for free. Only 3 camps took up the idea. And so what we need to do, what I feel we should do is make sure that there's no downside to using it, right? To being a member. There's zero downside. They're not going to start charging your credit card when you forget that you've joined, because you're not going to give them a credit card. And so I think this all goes to the idea that outdoor ministries across North America are one. We have more alike than apart. As our friend Nathan says, we are 99% alike, and the 1% we're not alike tends to be all about theology. And he said, so just ignore that 1%, do what you're going to do, and be outdoor ministries with all of your heart. And I think that this portal is a value to all of us.
So that being said, there's going to be a Q&A and like a letter kind of explaining it all that's going to go out over the next week probably, but we wanted to let you guys know, you folks know here first, and to let you know that it's coming. So between Jordan and Joe and myself, we'll somehow make sure that the email lists are together, and that we will let you know. But I think that there's a really great potential here. There's no question there's going to be bugs. There's no question that that things have to be worked out. But it's a great opportunity, and we'll definitely let you know going forward. It is now 9:28 my time. Joe has his hand up.
Bev Ogue would like to mention something.
Bev Ogue, the one and only.
So someone was mentioning about advocating with your MPs and MPPs for, sort of pushing what the value of camps are. And for all the camps that are in Ontario, you should have gotten the email notice from the OCA a couple of weeks ago where they actually created template letters for you to send. And I saw a couple where people actually got responses back from their actual MPs. We can share that template for the rest of you. You'll have to adjust it for your own, your own area. Like, you can't send Ontario stuff to somebody in Alberta. That's not going to fly at all. But we can share that if you would like that to do some advocacy, and share it, even beyond your own camps. The more camps that talk to their MPs and their MPPs, the greater chance you're going to get heard. We are stronger collectively than we are as singular units. So this is why the OCA did the template letter. And to date, the OCA is the only one I've seen doing a lot of action with regards to COVID and trying to help the camps to know where to go. So we can do that if you want it.
That's great. Thank you, Bev. We'll make sure that gets out. And just a reminder, Joe had put something in just down at the bottom of the chat about Travis Allison creating a mega doc, that if you're not on there, make sure there's a lot of great information in there. Also, there's a Slack group. If you're not part of that, we would encourage you to be to get involved in that. There's a lot of great conversations, a lot of great ideas that are coming out of here. We know that this was like a fire hose of information, so we say thank you for being here and taking your time tonight. It was awesome. Now, here's the thing. With all you wonderful people that came this time, you get to come back next month. So remember that the May the 11th is the second Monday in May that we will go ahead and do that at 7:30 Eastern. And just a reminder that if you feel isolated and you feel alone within the church and within your camp, please remember to reach out to your brother and sister, neighboring camps. Ask for help. If you feel alone and you feel like you're in this all alone, please reach out and ask, whether it's your region, your neighboring camps. Joe and I are around, the names that are around here, as well as the general counsel office. So,
Matt, I don't know if you were planning on saying anything about meeting with the general secretary and moderator.
I wasn't, but
I was asked today to coordinate that. So right. You will be hearing from me probably within the week. Not right away. I think we need to get some time for Nova Scotia to be honored and right now.
So sorry, Jordan. I noticed that the moderator and the general secretary had met with community ministries, and I was like, oh, that's nice. What about us?
Yes.
So I sent a Facebook message to the moderator to be like, hey, Richard, we'd love to meet with you. And someone at the general counsel office was like, yeah, sure. And I see now that Jordan got the email. So that's great.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, my friends, thank you so much. It's awesome that you were all here. Joe, Jordan, at least can you guys stay back? That would be great.
Yes. Is Vicky still on the call or did she hang up? If she can stay for a second, I wanted to talk to her.
All right, folks, we'll see you on May the 11th. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Be well.
Bye.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Joe, Vicky said